Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast.
Boom, what's going on, everybody? This is Jeremy from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Robin, I'm creeping it real.
There's always some kind of dance that happens after every intro video, and today Rob's inchworming it, I guess.
It was the old Nickelodeon inchworm dance that they had. It was like your finger exercises so that you could change the channel.
Oh, I don't recall, but that's okay.
I'm an elderly person, so I remember those days.
You can't be that elderly because you're not that much older than me, bro.
Well, how come I remember that?
I don't know. And the reality is I probably did sit in front of my TV going like this for like an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Just don't recall.
You had to. It's mandatory.
It probably was mandatory. Sheesh. How are you, Rob?
I am alive still, which is incredible. It is still
good.
cold as hell. This morning it was like 20 degrees, man. I was not feeling it. I was like, I thought I moved to get away from this.
I know we've definitely got this ridiculous Arctic cold snap that's hitting us in the Carolinas pretty bad. But you know what? I will say we could live in the mountains because they've been in the 30s pretty much every day for the last week. So
no, that's not for me.
We'll
it's
pass.
Not for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's for some people, just not for me.
Yeah, I could do without. We touched like 50 degrees at the peak of the day, and I was like, okay, all right, this is good. It's January.
It's bearable.
It's good. Yeah. Yep. I walked out in this very light hoodie. Meanwhile, I know that Rob put on his parka, and
so I had a t-shirt, my work shirt, a hoodie, and a jacket on today.
And he was still looking for ways to stay warm.
A beanie. I kept a beanie on. Yeah.
Oh man. And he's like consecutively doing finger exercises to keep his hands warm. And right.
You know. It's just what you got to do. So how are you doing?
I'm here, man. I'm here.
Feeling any better?
Yes, I'm starting to feel a bit better, which is good. I'm very thankful. If you guys listen to if you're watching this live, if you looked at yesterday's video, if you're listening on audio only, then this comes out next week. And you go back and listen to our episode with Sam Mancino, you heard me have a coughing fit and damn near die.
It was a struggle.
So yeah, it was a struggle, but we survived it. We're here. We're doing all right, man. We're doing all right. But it's just I've still been just kind of trudging through, getting things back up after being away for the trip. So today's focus was all the geckos and stuff that are all behind me, all over here. So that was the big focus, and we're just about caught up. I just have to feed all of the leopard geckos, which I'll be doing after the podcast. So I'll still be awake for a few hours, trudging through, picking out thousands of mealworms. Yay!
My baby snakes, so I'm going to be doing the same thing, probably for less time, but still.
Yeah, that'll be me tomorrow. I'll be feeding baby snakes. So yeah, and then the cycle's kind of back where it needs to be for the most part.
Yes.
So that's after, I don't know how you feel about taking trips like where you're gone for, I'd say more than 3 or 4 days. But you come back and you're like kind of dreading having to kind of catch everything back up. And like that last day when you're like, the cycle can now go back to its homeostasis.
Usual.
You're like, thank God.
For real.
Yeah, exactly. And typically I won't feed if I'm going away for a longer period of time because I don't want something to poop and then sit in poop for days, especially like colubrids and stuff that have a faster metabolism. But I had a lull in rodents here, so I had to feed stuff because they hadn't eaten in like 2 weeks. So I was like, well, let me just feed everything. So as I'm going through and looking at things, I'm like, oh, this whole rack is just poop. But we got to clean a lot of this.
Yeah.
So
It's always
not
when I think that I'm like good and I'm like, oh, okay, everything's clean now. And then it's like 4 short tails all poop on the same day. And I'm
all the
like,
same time.
this is
Dude, I had
so
three of my biggest Borneos all shit while I was away, and I was like, "Oh, this is
yeah,
oh god, why?"
get out the hazmat suit.
Yeah, literally, freaking literally. Oh man, but yeah, definitely happy to be getting back to the normal scheduled programming over here for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, before we get any further, of course, this episode of Reptile Talk is brought to you by our friends over at Black Box Cages. Go check them out. Of course, you can check out the ticker down below with all their info, and of course, link is in the description. Go check them out and get yourself a new cage, get yourself a new rack, or some awesome other accessories that you can put in a current cage or rack that you may be using. And when you check out, you can use code Reptile Talk and save a little off the top, because who doesn't want to save some money in today's economy? Yeah, go check them out. Blackboxcages.com. Without further ado, I'm super stoked for tonight's guest. While his name might sound indicative of a very small niche species of geckos, there are so many more animals this in his collection, and I cannot wait to talk to him. Johnny Rhacs, what's up?
Hey.
What's going on? What's going on?
What's up?
Yeah, how you
man?
doing tonight?
Living the dream, keep 2025 going, keep stepping forward for sure.
Hell yeah. That's the only way.
That is the
too.
only
Definitely
option at the
January.
moment.
Yeah, living the dream, cleaning gecko poop, like you guys cleaning a bunch of poop.
Yep.
Nothing like cleaning some poop.
Yep, absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely, dude. That's what we do. That's where the glorified poop cleaner.
And then when
It's
you clean
therapeutic
it,
poop cleaning, though. It's not traumatic
Yeah.
poop cleaning.
Right.
It's not grandma's poop. It's gecko poop. Like, it's like,
Oh god.
listen, man, there's a difference, okay? Cleaning a little bit of gecko poop, I'm like, this is in my zen zone.
That's a positive way of looking at it, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Shout out to all those people that have to clean human feces, because Jesus,
Yeah,
that just went.
It's true.
Less
Could be
zen.
worse.
It's less zen.
Oof.
worse. Oh, man. Oh.
Wow. Oh gosh. All right. Well,
Johnny, so for the people who might not have heard of you before or follow you on Instagram or on the socials, you've got a pretty incredible collection of animals and you work with some really rare stuff. And for the people who might not have heard of you or known what has led you up to here, what kind of led you into where you're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, ever since I was a kid, I first started with fish. I was fascinated with like fish, and then it went to turtles, and then it grew into reptiles. And I was the kid, just like us, I'm sure, that went down to the creek and caught as many frogs as he could until he got blasted by mosquito bites and
Yep.
couldn't go. Could have been half dead, but just couldn't let that frog go. You had to catch him, So
Mhm.
and then it just back when I was younger, I couldn't keep them in the house like when I was much younger. So I would have like frogs in the garage, things that wouldn't be smart to do now, but back
Mhm.
then that was kind of what you did. You had tadpoles, you grew them up in the tanks and then let them go and they turned to frogs type thing.
Yep.
And then
Hell yeah.
then it just it led into keeping them very more like just as pets. And I think I'll never forget it. Back then, it was when Exoterra first came out. I got myself a crested gecko, and then like it was like I don't know if it was the trend but it was like a big like in the sense cohab type situation where it's like you have this rainforesty type Exoterra, you put like the millipede in there and I had a red-eyed tree frog and
Hell
legit
yeah.
a pair of crested geckos and an 18 by 18 by 24 when
God
Exoterra
damn.
first came out. I swear to God. And yeah, I was probably like 11 or like 10. And then then I I had bearded dragons and I still had fish and turtles at the time. And then school comes, college comes, you kind of peel back and then, college passed, and then I kind of just, was like, I want to kind of get into this, a little more serious. And I started taking it a little more serious, and, the collection grew. And then you start to, realize that, your hobby can, in a sense, turn into a business, if you do it right.
Mhm.
And, it's just something I saw. And then, I still had a day job. I worked at a cancer hospital. And what really changed me is working there, and seeing, a lot of people pass and go through treatments, and, same age as us, younger, older kids. And I just realized, like, hey, dude, like, I could literally, like, die tomorrow, man. Like, what am I doing? Like, I want to do what I love. And that's literally the motivation. I think, every one of us has, like, a turning point in our lives where we kind of just kind of hit that dead end and say, there's more to this. And that's kind of
Yeah.
the direction I went. And then, the one thing is like, I believed in myself, and I knew that, creating structure and having the discipline and not giving up, or not, getting rid of animals and kind of hopping it back in and out. I thought that, if I just stayed down the path and built what I could, and then kind of played, like, I call it like a chess game, in a sense. And I mean, I guess you could say in a game, but you're just trying to build the foundation. And if you're the house, you got to build the fence around you. And that's kind of the direction I went, is, like, the structure with the geckos. I stuck with it. I created, because in a sense, like, a lot of Leachianus and, the gargoyles and stuff like that, it's like you are your own artist, and you could kind of create with a blank canvas. And if you stick with it and work the percentages and understand how, genes work, and how, what vision you see in the future,
Yeah.
it could go a long way. And then those chess pieces worked out for me to kind of transition to buy a lot of the the skinks that I have now, and just stuck with it, and it's still working out. And, and again, first of all, I genuinely love what I do. And I think that's the big thing, is it's loving it first, and not just totally thinking that, oh, I can yield a lot of money here, because, short-term thinking doesn't get you far. Long-term is where it's at. And I believe that as a business model too, because, when you treat people right, and not think about just getting the money in the short term, in the long term, it's going to be more beneficial to you than it would be in the short term. And, those are the things that are way more beneficial, creating relationships. Again, we all share the same common value. And I believe that, that's the importance of it, so now that's why I'm
Absolutely.
here. And, I really genuinely love what I do. I wake up every day, seeing life being born, and, seeing progress. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. It's like, today I had to feed a lot of baby geckos, and, I don't really have the, like, oh, I got to do this today. Actually, I look at it in the positive way and say, I got to feed my babies and watch them progress and see where they're at. And, like, watching animals grow, and seeing where they are, and, seeing them, do, progress and go in the right direction, and, seeing what the outcome could be for myself in the future. I think it's really fun. It's a good feeling, I enjoy it.
Hell yeah,
Mhm.
man.
Cleaning
Hell yeah.
poop, sometimes clean poop can be
Yeah.
it's like, you just pooped in this water bowl yesterday, man. I just cleaned it.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, you have to drink out of that bowl, right? Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Like,
or they're like, hey, this dummy's gonna clean it again anyway. So
Yeah, right. Or
So,
that's the leechies. It's like, yeah, I just watch you scrape all my poop off that front glass.
yeah, the
I'm
front
gonna
glass,
poop
baby.
again.
leechies are the worst, man. Like, you just
Yeah,
like, I
man.
just cleaned that, and you just projectile poop, not in the back of the cage, literally
Yeah,
directly in
right
the
on the
front.
front.
Like,
Right
clean
on the
this,
front.
you clean this,
It's
you.
yeah, it's literally like the biggest insult. Like
Yeah,
the
it's
most
all.
insulting species ever. I see
Yeah.
all your hard work. I'm gonna shit on it, man. Like,
Oh, and it's
damn.
always got to be like the drippy, like, just waterfall, just, it's just straight water. It's like, dude, come on. So, but no, you guys know how it goes. So, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. And I love all reptiles, and, but, I have a little structure. I know that, there is a little bit of a understanding that, I gotta make a living doing it, but I don't feel that stress of, like, like, oh my God, I need to make a living. I really do just think of, I enjoy it. What comes and goes is, it's okay with me. Like I said, that cancer
Yeah.
hospital changed my life, so I'm not gonna, be eager. You know, I really wake up happy and, you know, just to love what I do. So I'm sure you guys feel the same way.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I definitely I appreciate the positive spin on doing the work that a lot of times, especially those of us that have been doing things for a while, we start to think as mundane, like feeding babies or whatever. Like we kind of go through those motions. But I definitely appreciate that positive spin of just like, yeah, man, I gotta go feed these babies, and like I'm excited to see their progress, and like knowing that like this is part of that growth and evolution. And you know, maybe I'm gonna see one that, you know, has changed, you know, fairly drastically, and like now is a holdback or something, you know, like
Exactly. And or an animal. So you guys know, like there's ones that are tough to get on food, and they don't eat, and they start to look kind of like crap. And you say to
Right.
yourself,
Yeah.
all right, well, you need a smaller cage, you need to feel a little more secure, and then you kind of help them and guide them to start eating, and what do you know, that next feeding, you see that belly is
they're
enhancing
on it.
and looks like, all right, well, this one's going in that right direction, awesome. Like it's, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just trying to put a positive, like you said, a positive spin, and that's needed. You know, you don't want to go into it like, oh, I got to do this, man. It's just not. It's really going to be hard for you, you know, and just
Yeah.
understanding to, you know, pick and choose your battles. I think that's a big one. Don't be too overwhelmed, and that's usually the direction sometimes we can go. But you know, if you understand to let go of some animals and do what's right for them, you know, I think that's important too.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, man. I definitely agree with that. And yeah, I feel the same way, like especially for me right now, being in the transition that I'm in with kind of starting to focus more on the Amazon tree boa stuff, and like that's kind of
I love
taking
it.
over the
Yeah.
collection and all of that. Like I've found myself going down to do the mundane work in a more positive headspace overall, because I'm just like, no, like this is what really has my attention right now. And like I love everything that I work with and that I keep, but when you are looking at the business side of things, because inevitably we have to at some point, and you find yourself being like, man, like this is frustrating, like I have this and I have this, and like why isn't this selling or whatever. Like it's easy to go down that road. So to be in a space where you can be like, I'm just happy to be doing this right now, like
Exactly.
that's the best place to be.
And finding ways, you know, I feel too, like finding ways to accept it, you know, and say, hey, you know what, like same thing like you were saying with the Amazons, is like the same thing with the skinks. The skink collection has grown, you know, and I've had geckos for, you know, maybe 16 years, 15 years,
Hmm.
like, you know, as like a breeding program. You know, you get to
Yep.
that point where it's like, hey, like accept that this collection is getting a little big now, and you know, maybe we can trim some of the geckos that we established for many years. And I just feel like
Right.
that helps too, trying to accept that, and you know, do the right way, and that's important. So
Yeah, absolutely. So gecko wise, because I know we're totally talking about freaking skinks today, because you've got
I know.
some insane ones, but
Thank
gecko
you.
wise, like um what's like for gargoyle stuff, like what's something that is like a go-to for you, like look wise? um like I know for me, I like the red and orange stripe stuff, like that's where I like to pay a lot of my attention. But what's the thing that catches your eye the most with them?
That's funny. So it's been like, I want to say in that 13 year plus range when I
Hmm.
first started with gargoyles, and my eye, and that you'd like this. It was a guy. He worked for Philippe de Beaujolais. That's what he told
Okay.
me.
Dang, yeah.
And California, and then he moved over here, and he worked. He was at White Plains Reptile Expo, and he was like on the main floor, like where the, you know, there's the bleachers up top, where like, you know, the upper deck where like the people vend. He was like
Yep.
right in the front. He had these like little marble jars like later on with like gargoyles in them. I don't know his name, but
Hmm.
back before he had the jars, he had gargoyles, and he had these real striking, nice orange ones. And I prefer straight orange. That's like always been my thing.
Okay.
And he had this one on the table, and he just was starting to put it out, and I was like, I want that like ASAP. Like it was just a nice glowing like highlighter orange. It's
Yeah.
exactly what I love. And then I just, you know, kept it, bred them, and you know, now they're, you know, some of the ones I have are really enhanced orange, and that's kind of the go-to.
Hell
But I
yeah,
mean,
dude.
I like the blotched, I like blotched, you know, the super blotched orange ones. But
Yep.
I like all, like the striped reds are cool too, but that was always like the popular thing, and I'm like, these guys are pretty cool too, like the nice vibrant orange look really nice too. But again, that's
Yeah.
what I love about Rhacodactylus is it's like there's so many preferences, and I think it touches all areas in the market, which I really like, especially like Leachianus geckos. I mean, you have all these localities, dark
Yeah.
animals, designer animals, and I think that you can, you're like the candy shop of, you can pick and choose what you want in a sense.
100%,
So
man. Yeah, I really like the fact that, like, I see it a lot with leopard gecko stuff too. But in general, when we start working with species that are really polygenic, you can really take them in so many different directions, and it's almost a more beneficial line of the market to kind of get into, right? Like I think about like crested geckos in a
yep.
sense, like the lily white gene, of course, as a gene by itself is amazing. And of course got really popular because it's a crazy looking gecko. And as the market has shifted, right, and your average lily white has become more affordable, and obviously it's an incomplete dominant, so they're very easy to produce. The people that are really crushing it now are the ones that plugged it into one of those polygenic things. Like they're the reddest red
Yeah.
and whites that you can get, like all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I love that flexibility within the species. And it's not just like oh, well, yeah, it's just a one-off thing. It's like, no, I'm breeding specifically for this. And that's what I'm doing. Like I love that about
And
them.
that's what like the artistry comes in play. Like you have a blank canvas, and you can, and the biggest thing is if you want to, I don't want to say make it, because everyone is in a different circumstance. Some people do it for fun; they don't want to go crazy. But in a sense, it's what you see in the long term. What happens is a lot of
Right.
people will think in the short term, they sell off their future stock or what they see that's going to be something that's going to be good for the future. They sell it and put themselves in a sense behind, in a sense, and those things
Right.
can hurt you. But it's funny, I was just talking to like a bunch of people that I really agree with this. Like, we're reptile people. Like, I love all reptiles, but in a sense of like, I guess, a business
Yes.
model, or something that you want to become a little lucrative. I believe in stuff that is very variant. So like, for instance, like,
Mhm.
all Rhacodactylus, the kahua, green tree pythons. You got to realize green tree pythons, there's localities, there's mixed localities, there's designers, for instance,
Yeah.
something like, I think the next thing, in my opinion, is like an abronia. Like abronia, there's so many different, in a sense,
Yeah.
localities,
Yeah.
colors. Some of those lithochillas are like, there's crazy little like speckling on them. And I just see there's so much of a future. And it's like, like I said, it's like walking into a candy shop. You don't just want to get one thing. You see a couple things that you would like to grab, and I think
It's
that's
true.
a big thing for people. But I don't want to make it that like, that's what you should do. Like, I think, there's other reptiles that you just want to have for fun, or a pet, and
Oh,
there's tons of
absolutely.
little small projects you want to do, and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think there's always, I mean, we're lifelong reptile folks, so we always know it's like they're like potato chips. You can't just have one,
It's like exactly, it's so
I got
true.
this one crested gecko, and it's like, yeah, give it time. Hang on, give it time. You're gonna have a few more. I promise. I
Yeah, it's so
promise.
true. It's so true. Once you get one, you have to get a bunch more.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly, exactly. No, but I definitely, I'm definitely a fan of that stuff where you can really just take it super directionally. Like, it's one of the things that attracted me to working with colubrids when I was young, was
I
like
love
just
bluebirds
seeing,
too.
yeah, man, like, uh, looking back, like I've got some extreme, what they call extreme coral ghost stuff. So they're just
Okay.
like super pink animals, and watching watching those animals when I got them as like yearlings, they were kind of pink. Now looking at them, I'm like, holy crap, like these are amazing. Breeding them into totally unrelated animals, but seeing how that pink has influenced that coloration, I'm like, oh man, like this, we can just take this and freaking run with it and really change some stuff up. I'm like, this is so freaking cool. Like,
And I think that, to me, like, the most funnest part, and I know you would attest, is you know the vision of what you can see, and then manifesting it in a sense. Like, literally,
yeah,
like, you see the animal, you go, "Oh, I know what could be done if I do this," and then manifesting it, and then all of a sudden the outcome in the, what, 3 years, 4 years, sometimes could be longer, but it's gonna come. And I think that's like the most exciting part is manifesting the vision you have of a line that you see like that could be like very intriguing and striking and that's in a sense some of the skinks I'm working with. You see that like, oh man, like that one and that one, man, if they produce some babies, and in my head,
out of this world, yeah.
And, like in my head, it's like I always say, like in the program and the way I go about things is what I call percentages. Like so, like for instance, if you have a pair of Leachianus geckos, they produce 6 babies. There's going to be a percentage there that is what you're looking for, and what I call is like a super form. Something of both parents, dam and sire, that got the best traits of both, and then you're plugging it in. You're going to get a percentage out of the 6 babies, and then when you work that down the line, you're going to get another percentage of what you see in the future, and that's kind of how I've always gone about it. Just stuck with it, and there's nothing better than that.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, it bringing the project to life is definitely what it's all about, for sure. For sure. Yeah. But hell yeah. So, welcome back, Rob.
Yeah, my computer every now and again just has a complete struggle moment, and it's like, I can't do this anymore. And I'm like, I swear you can.
Rob, you should have stuck with the extra virgin olive oil, bro. You had the other stuff, man.
I did. I had the other stuff, and I went wrong. I messed up. I done goofed, as they would say.
Oh man,
yeah, we were laughing. I got the prop, and I was like, oh, extra virgin olive oil would work tonight. I dropped my phone.
Perfect. It's perfect.
I should have used it.
Oh man, that's awesome. Oh gosh.
Do you wait for like the full season to see kind of which ones you're gonna hold back for like those specific traits, or are there any that are like fresh out of the egg that you're like, oh, that one it's got what I'm looking for from both parents?
Absolutely, yeah. And you guys know Leachianus are sex temperature orientated, so even to a point where I get 6 babies from 2 different pairs that I'm like, these 2 pairs, future babies would go good if I can mesh them back in, and I put one, a bunch of them, usually half of the 6 for female, half of the 6 of the others for male, and I'm going to try to work them together. And again, we're working the percentages to that next generation, and then seeing the vision, and I think that's the biggest thing in the reptile world is in my opinion, the biggest thing, if you want to kind of get ahead and somewhat stay on top, if you're looking at it that way, is having that structure and discipline to stay on path. If you could do that, I believe you guys know it could really benefit you in a sense. Now, everyone's circumstance is different. No one's perfect. Not saying that that's always going to happen for everyone, but for any breeder out there, it's definitely, I believe, really important to stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you never know what the end product could look like, and not to say that there's like an end, but you never know how far you can take things, because if you look at ball pythons from the 70s and 80s, if you showed them what I don't even know what the name of some of the Kabelka stuff that he's producing, but these like neon flame orange clown things, like if you showed that to somebody,
the paragraph,
the paragraph.
That's the next line. Someone should come out with just the paragraph.
The paragraph line is
I'm
great.
waiting for the everything bagel. Come on.
The everything bagel is perfect.
How about the extra virgin olive oil?
There it is. There it is. That's got to be. That's right.
The fresh mozzarella.
That's got to be the some Italian green tree breeders got to do that. This is the extra virgin line. Fuck, no blues, no nothing. It's just straight green. I just want my tree snakes fucking green, guy. That's
yeah. Legit. But like, if you had shown somebody from back then, if you showed them, some of these ball python morphs that they're producing now, they'd be like, how did you get a bright orange ball python? Because they're just brown. And it's like, if people had not put in the dedication of selectively breeding for these specific traits, we never would have known. And I think about how many different species people have not even been selectively breeding for. They've just been trying to produce them, and they're very beautiful and everything. But just thinking, ball pythons are just brown and black. Like it's very unusual to see anything that's not just brown and black. To seeing the colors and the pattern and everything they're getting now, when you've got beautiful things, already colors in the base, like some of the Taliqua that you've got, like the sky's the limit. Like it's already there.
I see it here, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun because, especially Ragusa, the Western shingleback. I mean, they come in so many different patterns and paint jobs. I have literally babies that came from the same litter, and look, when I tell you, completely opposite. Like it's just like, oh yeah,
Really?
there's a long term in this that can really change if we stay on path and and really push the projects and do it right. Luckily, there's some good bloodlines here that we can do a lot of outcrossing and kind of play a good game, not a bad game, and obviously reptiles, it could happen that that's not the worst thing in the world if you inbreed in a sense, but luckily there's some good bloodlines here. But yeah, I even said, like, I even tell some friends, like, like breeders, it's like we haven't even gotten to the area of like just owning a shingleback. Like,
Yeah.
we haven't even just gotten to that point now. Like the holdback quality, like the sky's the limit. You guys, I think you put it, shared it. You, Rob, I think shared it. That's a holdback quality. That crazy orange animal.
Thing
Like
is phenomenal.
it was being born live. I took a video live of it, and it was the head was so orange. I was like, no, like just imagine when this thing first sheds, it's gonna be crazy. And what do you know? That picture that I did, that real orange one, like that was after its first shed, and I'm like, the direction this could go if I stay on course, like you said, like the ball pythons, like if they thought short term, some of these projects wouldn't have an end result like they do now and still continue, because they
Yeah.
thought long term and they saw a process, they saw a vision, and they manifested it. And what do you know, especially a guy like Justin, like he's manifesting this, and then the outcome comes, and that's what we chase for. It's fun,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
I have to say, shinglebacks are like my favorite skinks. So like knowing that they're at least in the States gives me solace, because at some point in my life I have to own one. So I'll go on record and say I'm very jealous that you have numerous.
yeah. It was again a vision, and like it there was no distractions. It was said, Johnny, do the best you can to obtain and focus, and and the hard work that went in, some luck came along the way. Like a good mentor of mine, like Dave Sutton, who had a collection he built for many years, since like early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken. He built it, and he says he's grateful all the time, but like in a sense, it's almost like there were times I get emotional, like that. I'm grateful to get the opportunity, because he wanted his animals to go into a person's hands that's going to do right, animal welfare wise, and two, stick with it and run the torch, and that came in my lap, that and he was so like he wanted it so bad to go in the right home, that even to a point where, like, I didn't have the money like that, and he wanted to wait, and he wanted to make sure that it goes in the right hands, and it's I'm beyond grateful it worked out for both of us, and here I am, and it's the job's not done yet, because I think it's important that I do my best for the hobby, and for everyone. Yeah, obviously these guys aren't a cheap price tag, but we are in a starting point, and you got to start somewhere, and I'm gonna do the best I can to run the torch, and build the dream, and help others. I'm sure everybody would want one, so it's there's other breeders out there, but they are, and I am a big key to the hobby, to try to push it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's like no short-term thinking. It's long-term. It's like, I got to make sure to do the best I can to establish and do right, so.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man.
Man, it's not about the money, because to be honest with you, if it was about the money, I wouldn't be doing this, because they only produce one or two babies.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
right,
not like,
exactly.
not like, if I wanted to be straight businessman, it's not probably the best route to go. But I think it's it's important and to do things the right way, because there's a lot of crazy crap going on, and if you do it right and captive bred, work hard at it, establish and really push it, and that's what I want to do. So
Yeah. There's a greater sense of pride in that realm, man. It's like, I mean, like that's how I'm approaching a lot of stuff with the Amazons. I mean, granted, far
oh,
more
I love
readily
the Amazon.
available, but
Yeah,
like,
but they're so
but like to be able to produce a solid quantity of captive bred animals to bring to market where people can kind of avoid the wild caught stuff and still have plenty of options and everything, like that's where like I'm trying to carry that torch, and like that's the long-term focus for me with that project. So I definitely get that, like being so locked in and having that drive to be like, no, I want to make sure when this comes to fruition, it's like the best quality, the best possible outcome for everything. So I'm
and
100% with that.
yeah, and you're like, in a sense, you can hopefully domesticate them, because they could be a little bratties, right?
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. The reel that I posted today, I probably avoided like a dozen or so bite attempts. So,
You're gonna be a grade A ninja warrior soon,
yeah, exactly.
So
I
no, but
literally I've been tempted, like while I'm cleaning cages, to play Everybody Was Kung Fu Fighting, just like,
Yes.
while I'm going through.
but like I would say Amazon Trebo is like, I'm sorry, like I don't think there's any like reptile out there. I mean, I'm sure there is, that like when you get like a litter, it's just like randos. Like, it's totally like, isn't it like totally, each one is like, could be totally different or far from, or is there like a kind of a consistency do you see? Because I always see like
There's
there'll be a litter and it's random.
Yeah, there's definitely some consistency as far as like there's a handful of traits that we know are inherited a certain way, like tiger and leopard and red calico to an extent, and even like Halloween and garden. But a lot of it is still up for debate, and with so many animals still being bred that are wild caught, like we a lot of times we just don't know what's going to happen. But there's a handful of guys that like they've been breeding long enough where they've
Yeah.
kind of been able to break it down and make sense of it. So I definitely feel like in the next like 5-ish years or so, we're probably going to have like a bit more, not 100%, but a bit more of a sturdy understanding of how things are transferred and stuff. And of course, there's the occasional wild card animal that comes into the country or that somebody pops up and produces, and then we're all sitting here like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That one got the extra virgin olive oil. I don't.
Oh god. It's
Right.
fugazi.
Yeah, well,
It's
yeah.
fugazi, It's a fugazi.
Got a little fugazi, a little fugazi.
Oh man. That's freaking funny. But yeah, man.
So I'm trying to think, like, so what percentage of your collection is like geckos versus the skinks?
It's creeping up on probably close to half and half right now. I would say it's creeping. I would say geckos a little bit more, but being that a lot of the stuff I have like with blotched, and I have lowlands. I have some Agurnia stuff, and the shinglebacks, the westerns, some skincoides, the easterns. And
Oh yeah.
a lot of the stuff I kind of held back a lot. So yeah, so it's getting close. Like. I have blotched are like near and dear to me. They're sentimental, and I think it was the old like, yeah, they can't be bred,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you guys know it's like, oh, they can't. All right, well, now it makes me even want to do it more, and
Yeah.
it came into fruition, and I couldn't believe it, and it was even to a point where like. I knew the first year I bred them, I knew she was gravid, but I like, nah, I'm not convinced. Not until it's done.
Yeah.
It's
Until the
it's
babies are out.
yeah, she's like breathing heavy, like looks like a balloon, and I'm like, nah, she's not gravid. I'm just gonna say it's not. And then yeah, I woke up one morning, and it is probably like the coolest sight to see in the world. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, you get like it's unbelievable. Like, semi emotional, man. And I'll be straight up. Like, even to this day, I've done it. It's 4 years in a row.
Wow.
And every time it's been very much, weak in the knees. Like, oh my god, this is unreal. And seeing live, you guys know, seeing live birth is just a whole different vibe. It's just like,
Yeah.
And again, to see like to see something that's everyone said that it's almost near impossible to breed them, getting to be done. And I believe that a lot of people can breed them. And hopefully that people have that mindset, because the opportunity for others is there, and I hope for it, because they're just an amazing pet in my opinion. They're little puppy dogs.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Dude, I can't even imagine just walking in and seeing some of those chunky babies in there. It was so incredible.
Yeah, I call them like little punks. They like, they hiss and get all nasty, but they don't do nothing. They're just little punks, like, and you can just go in there, and that's the best I love about them. You can just go in, grab them, no problem. They're like little puppy dogs. Like, even the shinglebacks, like I love the pits I have, because like that was my whole vision too on the pits is like being able to just like a tortoise pen, just be able to go in there and
Yep.
pick them up. Just like, it's just, like if you're out in the wild, and
Yeah.
I think that I incorporated for that reason. I made sure that it was like waist level too. So like you can go in there, grab them, and, I love it. I think there's so much benefits to, especially, live birthing animals, open pit style, in my opinion. I think it just really helps with timing and, in a sense, they are their own incubator. And sometimes cages, in a sense, could be, it could be a pain in the butt. And if the cages spike, things can be a little bit more of a problem. Not saying that it can't be done,
Right.
but
Right.
I like to, I look at everything I go into, I look at it as like, the roulette wheel at the casino. It's like, the more numbers you put on, the better chances you're going to be. And I think that same thing with like a lot of the Taliquas, for live birthing, a lot of live birthing animals, the more you give to them, the more odds, the more numbers you can put on, at the roulette table, the better chances you are to having success. And I really like the open pit style, in my opinion. I think it really helps with their the gradients of temperature and being able to thermal regulate. I've noticed too, like even just observing, like, I'll have a shingleback or like a blotch that, their basking is 100 and it's like usually 102 degrees. And the other side of the pit is like high 60s. And like they'll bask for literally like 20 minutes, leave and go into a cool spot, but at a point they'll thermal regulate at the same temperatures for a very long time. How they do that, you guys might be, I'm not like crazy scientific, but it's just so cool that they can hold temperature of where they're at for only basking for like 20 minutes in a real hot environment. And it's like, I think that's what happens in the wild, is that they come out in the morning, they get a good bask. It's hot as crap out there, and then they just
Yep.
go into a burrow and pretty much be down for the rest of the day, and they'll thermoregulate. But when you temp gun that animal after they've been hours away from the heat, they're pretty much the same temperature, and it's usually always into the mid to high 80s.
That's
That's
cool.
things that I have been seeing, and it's very interesting. That's what I love, and enjoy, and I'm sure you guys too, is being able to observe your animals. That's like one key thing that I have is being able to go in and see exactly what's going on, and then making adjustments and seeing, and you guys know, it's like you have a feeling that one's gravid. It's like, I call it the rotisserie chicken method. Like they'll be basking in one spot. You go change some water bowls, and all of a sudden they're like rotated around, and it's like,
Yes.
you're cooking something, aren't
Yeah.
you?
I love that.
Yeah,
I
so it's
freaking
like,
love that.
and even like what I've noticed too is like late term, like when they're about when they're about to have babies, the skinks, is especially in open pit. I've noticed that they tend to hunker down and they don't really bask anymore. It's almost like their babies are pretty much fully developed and they're just pretty much waiting for birthing, or they're pretty much cooling down to kind of have a little bit more, not fast, not speed the process of development, and they're kind of slowing themselves. But like late term, they start to really kind of peel back and stay away from. That's what I love about the open pit concept is that we're giving them everything they want and need. You can't. You guys know this. You can't have 100+ basking spot in a 4-foot cage because you're going to spike the shit out of the temps.
Right.
Unless you have it on a thermostat and it flicks on and off. But it's a lot of like, I believe that, if you can get just like a sun patch in the spring, even, it's going to be like 40+ degrees more than it would be in a shady spot. And if we can try to mimic that, especially with live bearing, reptiles, it's very beneficial that they can get as hot as they can get as cool as they can. And I even have a middle end where I have a thermostat and an ultratherm at like 88 degrees, and they're able to kind of play the in between if they need to. And I think that is key. I don't want to be in control. I don't. Let them be in control.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because, like, especially like reptile eggs, towards the end of incubation, they tend to heat up a little bit more. And so in those last couple weeks, the temperature can spike just like it can in the container or in the incubator. So it makes me wonder if maybe that's what's happening. The babies inside are creating a little bit of heat, and the mom's kind of trying to compensate for that.
So cool. That's probably what it is.
That's true.
It's the babies are fully developed and they're able to kind of control their own. They're pretty much getting ready to go, and they kind of do their own thing, and that's awesome to know. And again, that what I'm learning here with that, and this is all learning in house. Like I like I have my mentors, but like complacency isn't always great. If you can find a way to push things and understand it, like for instance, right now, in the pits, I'm saying to myself, I'm getting tired of like having animals sit in a brumation process with no lights on for like months. I mean, with no lights on for like months. And sometimes I see them pop out, and I say to myself, right now, and I've tried this last year, and it has worked. That like, especially with the open pits, is like, why not leave the lights on where it could get really warm? But because it's an open pit, it still stays as cool ambient as if it was in the wild, and they have the choice to maybe pop out, get some water, and do their own thing where I don't have to be in control of it. Because that's what I do is I tend to manually do it. So like, for instance, 100% that, the collection I have, you see some pop out even though I have the lights off. And I say to myself, you're out, I'm going to turn your lights on. I don't really care. And I use halogens, which is great because, you guys know it has that like
real concentrated,
real concentrated.
Yeah.
So it actually benefits, one, that it gets really warm in that area, but two, it doesn't get spike the cage temps. It keeps it kind of in that good spot. So it's like, hey, I'll turn the lights on. You go do your thing, get your water, recharge, and then before you know it, I come back in the next few days, they're gone. And I shut the lights off. And I want to come into this area where I kind of can do both. And, I'm only, if I do keep the lights on, it's only for a few hours. But it's saying, hey, you could come out if you want to. So these are things I'm trying to like learn and push the limit. But it's just, that's the stuff that I find very interesting, to perfect and not be complacent,
Yeah, you got to get like a motion sensor during brumation so the light can just come on for you, man.
Motion camera ring, right? A ring.
Yeah, exactly. Turn it on. Yeah.
I think it's funny because it kind of lends itself to like naturally how the cycles would go in the in between and even in the cooler seasons. Because like Jeremy, what was it? Not last year, but the year before, we went out on January 2nd, and it was like a warmer kind of day, like at least in the sun. And we caught that black rat snake out basking, and it was like still pretty. It's winter. It's the dead of winter, but it was outside of its den, just catching a little bit of rays, and then it was just going to go probably right back down because we ended up getting cold after that again. And naturally, a lot of these animals that are brumating are not just like down the whole time, especially if there's a warmer day. They might take that opportunity to come up. And I bet you that getting that little bit of heat can help with their immune system and making sure that their system is running okay, and then being able to go back down and let it settle. I wonder if that plays a role in that sort of thing.
Yes, and it's funny you say it. Like, I look at reptiles as a computer system, and understanding how that computer system works, and it's a great point that, what I'm doing, because everything's pitch black, like all the windows are darkened, everything's darkened. I'm never mimicking the outside. What I'm saying when I do that is we're burrowing now. So I think my mentality is when I darken that room, it's we're acting as if you're in a burrowing stage. But at the same time, they do pop out, like you said, like that snake, and that's maybe all they need is just to come out, recharge. We don't know if there's any underlying element or like something small that they just need to recharge, and it could be as simple as that. And that's where I like to first off shorten my brumation. A lot of the animals I have, I actually shorten it, and what I do is their brumation is if we're mimicking them being underground. So that's only like a month and change, maybe 2 months. It's when I start in September is where it technically is starting the brumation process. Now, meaning, we're shortening light cycle just a touch. We're dropping the nights just a little bit more. I always say to people, I repeat myself, but I really love this example. Is like, when you guys fly in a plane, right? And you hear your pilot come on, they're like, "Yep, we're descending, or we're about getting ready to land." And like, if you were the first time on a plane, you'd be like, "Oh, we're here." No, it's not. There's a lot left. It's like another 30 plus minutes that he's got to descend. He's got to get everything ready. He's got to be cleared for the runway. Like, there's so much in depth to it that sometimes when you go from winter-like conditions and people think too fast and go right into summer conditions, you're fucking everything up. You want that, the slow descend like a pilot would on a plane. And I think that people come up to me and say, how long do you cool your animals? And it's like, I hate to say it, it's such a hard question to answer because, technically 1 month, in the eyes of the way I look at it, but in the full process, it's from September all the way up until the beginning of February. And we're slow, like you said, technically it is from September till February. But if I say that, they think lights are off from September to February, but it's not. It's the starting process. And we're slowly descending into winter and then slowly coming back out and going, and if you can mimic that, and this is just as simple as, light cycle, slowly starting to decrease the ambient temperature. And really, like, it's like, this, Jeremy, and I'm sure Rob, it's like, a musician, like, you got to fine tune it, and you can't fine tune a guitar in 3 seconds. No, you got to get it going, get it ready. And I think that's kind of what it is with reptiles. You just got to understand how to fine tune and not rush, and I think that's where a lot of success has come for me. And again, I don't want to, everyone's circumstance is different. Like these blotch, if you really want to have great success, you can breed them in a brumation process at 55. And you absolutely can. I know Phil Tremper has done that. But again, back to the roulette wheel, I want to put everything on every number, and I want to get them into the 40s, and I do push them to the 40s, but not a lot of people can do that. So everyone's circumstance is different. So I don't, everyone's subjected. Us reptile keepers, especially if you have a family and stuff, you're subjected to one room, and you have all these animals in different climates and areas, and you got to find the in between. It's again, you're putting one number on the roulette table instead of you could put a bunch of numbers on the roulette table and increase your odds on having success. But if you could follow those methods with a lot of reptiles, it could be very beneficial. So I'm sure you guys feel the same. I would hope.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely feel it. Like when I bred, when I was breeding Brettles pythons, like the first time I ever bred them, like I was told, like they got to get really cold. They want to be dropped down like into the 50s or whatever. And I'm like that, like the first time I had heard that, it was the first time I was working with a species that was capable of kind of really handling that long term. And I was like, that just makes me really nervous. So I cooled them like I did all of the other Morelia. And luckily, because the room sat naturally warmer because I had so many other animals, there was enough of a drop where they cycled and did well. But I had friends that were like, oh, if mine are in the 60s, they won't breed at all. And I'm like, well, mine were in the 60s and they were fine, but my entire room dropped to that. So like the entire ambient temperature dropped. So I think that was enough of a signal. And even when I moved here, the basement didn't get cooler than I think like 65 and still produced Brettles without any issues. And I'm like, haha, but
But you
also
you did the slow descent. Like I'm sure you
100%, yeah,
if you kept it flatlined, you probably wouldn't have success. But there was definitely
right,
a way, a cycling that played a big role, and I think that's the biggest component too. In a sense, we
yeah,
are Mother Nature, and if you could control your ambience while still having those basking spots, you know, it could be very beneficial. But you know, even the blotch, you know, I know scientists and stuff would probably maybe hate me, but maybe not. I don't know, but I'm sorry, I don't believe they go through a brumation process. I believe they go through a hibernation, and I think that's what
Oh.
you know a lot of people don't see is there is another dial that they need to get down, and if they're not set
mm,
down to that dial, you know, because most breeders I would hope to attest. Obviously, again, people that have them outside, it's a total different vibe, but anybody that's doing
yeah,
them inside, compared to some of the Western Ragusa I have and some of the Western Occipitalis I have, these guys go into a full shutdown. Like they when I first started, I got like stressed out because
Yeah.
they were rigor mortis. I went
Mhm.
I was like, you know, I tried to be that guy like, oh, let's do health tests and make sure they're okay. And I would grab one and it's like, and I'm like, it's dead, it's dead. And then all of a sudden they start to
oh
kind
jeez,
of like you know, a little bit, you know, like and I'm like, all right, well, and I just believe that like, you know, I'm sorry if you have a blotched blue tongue like pop out of what I call hibernation, usually you're gonna have trouble and you know you're not gonna have
mm,
success, but they need a full. I believe that they go through a hibernation process, and even some of the you know, I wouldn't doubt some of the like, you know, more southern form of like, you know, Ragusa aspera, you know, some of the southern giants, the big boys. I think that they need to be kept, you know, in a sense that much cooler and they go through a hibernation process. I believe so. I think there's that extra switch they need to get there. You know, that's just my opinion.
yeah,
It's not fact. That's what I believe. Compared to like when I see Occipitalis or Ragusa, like you see them pop out every once in a while, and they're more, you know, more cognitive to you. Like they're like, you know, like it's a different thing than
right,
what blotch would be.
yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't be super surprised by that. I mean, I'm sure if you start looking at like weather conditions in those ranges, you
It
know, you'd see it
snows.
kind of hit. Yeah, it's going to hit that next
Yeah.
level because like we see the same thing with different tegu species. Like I know when I've
Oh
talked with
yeah.
our buddy Josh Ortiz, like he's tegu guy, but he talks about the brumation process, and he's like different species brumate at different lengths of time. He's like, I
Yeah.
have species that come out before others because
Yeah.
their clock naturally is like, okay, well, it's going to be 2 months or it's going to be 4 months or whatever. You know, so they already it's kind of like
It's another,
pre-programmed,
yeah.
you know,
It's
so they
another
but they kind
switch.
of
I
know.
would say like it's
Yeah.
another like the occipitalis, the you know, some of the skincoides, even some of the northerns, the intermedia. There's a switch, but like the blotch and some of those southern forms, like even I wouldn't doubt Tasmanian blotch. There's another
Mhm.
switch. There's a whole other
Oh.
switch that they
That's
need, in my
interesting.
opinion. Yeah, in my
Yeah.
opinion. You know.
Yeah. Have you so I don't really I'm not super familiar with other folks in this realm, but I assume you've probably talked with some of them and like do they notice the same things with them, like they really want to just get down that extra notch?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty sure me and well, it was Kim Lancey's is bred them, and
Mhm.
Phil Tremper. Um, Kim, would think would attest, and I remember Phil and I did talk about this. Phil Tremper, he believes the same thing that like he knows that like there's another level to them. There's another switch, another dial, and I remember pretty much 100% sure that Phil Tremper has, you know, has felt that way because I think we talked about it, and he would attest. He's had more success than I ever would. And same thing with Kim Lancey. You know, I'm like the
Yeah.
new kid on the block, but you know, but yeah, definitely there really is, in my opinion, another notch. Actually, even you know, I have a buddy in Australia that I always kind of just talk to because I love to like hear what they're doing outdoors, and I can implement it, you know, in
Yeah,
captivity.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It will never be compared to the outdoors environment. But like I even have my buddy Richard Connolly say that he would one time he went out there and it was full blast like snowing out, like almost like above an inch, and like they were in
Damn.
it, like they were in the snow, like not even caring, like just
That's
like yeah,
freaking
What?
you know,
wild.
yeah, and they sleep like dogs, so like they sleep in a circle.
A little
Almost like a
curled up,
sea.
yeah.
Yeah, like compared to some of the other Taliqua, I mean, some others do with other Taliqua, but like literally blotch like always sleep in like what I call like a little donut. It looks like a little donut. You know? So
That's the everything bagel,
yeah,
Rob.
oh.
That's it.
It's a little croissant.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's
So, but
funny.
yeah, no, I mean, I enjoy this. You know, I'm actually, you know, they're in a brumation / hibernation, and I'm bored. I'm like, I kind of want to start waking them up, but they still got. Yeah,
I feel
always
that,
say-
dude. That's
always
how
say,
I feel
like,
with the
I get a break.
colubrids down.
Yeah. I say, oh, I get a break, and then I'm like, I'm bored. I want to bring them bastards out. You know.
Yeah. You're like 2 weeks into it, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I miss my animals, man.
Yeah,
Like, come on
I
out.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm eating too many Italian bread and some
Yeah.
salami and prosciutto. You know,
I got
eat
the
too much of
gabagool.
it.
I've been eating this
Yeah,
gabagool for 2 months now.
the pasta and meatballs, I can't do it anymore. I gotta get myself going here. You know.
Oh my god.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Have you ever taken a bite from one?
I have, and it can hurt. So I was so I co-had like a lot of my female, the Nigrolatia, the blotch, and
Yep.
you know, I went to go clean caging, or actually pits because they're in the pits, and both females were gravid. And right lead up to when they're about to have a litter, they are the nasty son of a bitches on planet Earth. Like even
Yeah.
the shinglebacks, like you go near their area, bro, they chase you. So
Oh, man.
I went to go grab, and of course it's the freaking BIT, you know what?
Yeah.
She was the one I wanted to grab last, which I kind of wish I grabbed first. I went to go grab the one female, and she flew out and just grabbed my finger, and like they had like vice grips, and she made me bleed too, which I was surprised. But yeah, she's
Not
actually
surprised.
back before pre-CITES, when we were allowed to import them. I imported a new line of Nigrolatia, and she's produced 2 litters for me. So there's new bloodlines in the States. But
Wow.
now, unfortunately, now we don't have a shot anymore to get them. But at least I got some from her. She had 2 litters, and it was 2 years in a row she had 5 babies. Actually,
Wow.
if you see the one who bit me, if you were on my Instagram, I know you guys watched this. There's a video of like when it was this summer where you took a video in the pit and you saw the babies next to mom.
Mhm.
That was the one.
Yeah.
That was the one that bit my finger. She's nasty. She's huge, like huge. She had 5 babies and 3 infertile ovums. So she could have had a litter of
Really?
8, which is which is not common in Highland form blotch. So
That's wild.
beefy.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's
but
a big friggin' damn.
As far as shinglebacks, I have actually never gotten bit by them. They show their bluff like much earlier if they're in that mood, and you got to realize like with the pits, it's like you're coming over the top of them. You're not like going.
Yeah, it's more predatory in nature. Yeah.
So and they have that third eye on the top of their head, so like that sensor is like that sensor is what I told could be used as a compass and it's used as a sensor for like birds. So I moved out. It's just a natural instinct. So if you catch them off guard and you're coming over the top, they throw full display at you. They don't really try to nip, but they just try to like show that they're big and bad.
It's like, whoa, bro, back off. Yeah.
But it's actually pretty interesting. But I don't like it when like I have gravid females. I really don't want to stress them out too much, so I kind of usually tuck away and don't really mess with them too much. But but sometimes they show their display. But usually most of the time, if they know it's me, they're pretty calm.
Yeah.
So
no, that's
cool.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I would hit by one. It was not fun.
Oh, you did?
Oof.
A blue tongue, but not a shingle, but a blue tongue, and oof, they got some jaws on them.
They do, and they'll split you. Like people say, oh, it's just molars. It's like I've got
no.
They make you bleed.
Oof. I remember a while back seeing a video on Facebook. It's like some random reel of a guy in Australia that was like, "Oh, look, a little bluey," and he goes and grabs him and just like lights him up. And I'm just like, I think so, yeah.
Then he has that like, oh fuck, mate. Like it's like, like my American ass would be crying like a little baby. Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
for
right.
real.
Meanwhile, this guy's just like, crikey, another day at the office, I guess. It's just
Yeah,
like,
I think he got bit by like a taipan or something. It's like he was like
jeez.
cool with it. Like, yeah, I'm going to the hospital right now. It's like, yo, I'm
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, just another day in the outback.
Not for me. That's the last day.
Yeah, right, exactly. Sheesh. But I would definitely recommend folks that are listening, go check out. You did a video with Gary Scavino.
Yeah.
Showed off your collection and everything, so people want to get kind of a view of what we're talking about, what you're talking about as far as the pits and some of these animals. Like, go check out that video, because I remember watching it and being like, damn, this is badass, and man, I need shingleback skinks.
Oh, and those pits are temporary. It's just trying to understand how it works. Like, it's all temporary. And then my next goal, if zoning's right and I can make it happen, I will make it happen. But it's just how the township can do things is, my goal is to have a building, right,
Mhm.
and then a greenhouse attached, right, and then have a pit on the indoor, and then a window going out into the
To the outdoor.
greenhouse.
Dude,
Where it's
that'd
an
be
outdoor
badass.
pit. It's gonna happen, but it's just how guys it goes. It's the chess game. It's trying to get money in the funds, but at the same time make a living for myself. And it's a game, but I really want to do that to a point where, like, I don't have to. They could just do their own thing, man. They can go outside if they want to, but not I won't be stressed out with them being totally outside. And then in the wintertime I can close things up and they can cool off inside the building. And that's my biggest push right now. And I will make it happen. It's just, when and figuring out, how to make it work. But I just want to,
dude.
the reason why too, I appreciate Gary so much is, a lot of people might say, like, you shouldn't be, it's tough to show shinglebacks because everyone goes crazy. And I just, my biggest thing for that was creating a standard to say, hey, like, they are here and there are people working with them, but let's create a high standard so that, when the future does come, we're keeping them right. And, listen, I'm not perfect. We all start somewhere, and it's just, what direction you go. And I want to create a better standard. And if I could show, hey, like when Gary came over to say that, hey, like these are how, reptiles as a whole should be kept. And I think that it's that next direction. And again, that's all temporary setups. This is just me trying to understand how things work and how they work. They're teaching me, like, you guys have your mentors, but, the reptiles are your own mentor in a sense too. They really can teach you a
Absolutely.
lot. And they do teach you a lot. That's why, a lot of these breeders, are first, one-offs to producing certain animals because, they didn't go in there blind. They see things and they say, hey, like, this could be adjusted. Oh, this animal's doing that. And, maybe I change this up and not be complacent and push yourself to that next level, and again, it's not perfect. I'm not sitting here saying that everything's perfect. It's sometimes, in a sense, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror too, because, we always say, like, oh, like, the reptiles aren't breeding or this isn't working, but in a sense it's us too. Like, mentally we need to be there. We're not, we all have our issues, we all have our everyday life, and to have motivation, I think, is very key. And that's kind of the place where I try to push it is having the mindset. But again, we're not perfect. You guys know winter's here, it's not always all perfect and sunshine and rainbows. We all have we all have our days. We all have our days, and I think it's just taking that step forward and pushing yourself and really trying to push it. And it's for the reptiles too, and that's what I like. Again, I'm not perfect. I had the minimalistic setups back when I first started. I had the the tub setups, and I just realized, like, these guys are diurnal, and you see them out, like, running around in those tubs, and you're kind of like, this doesn't seem totally right. I think they need a little more, and that's kind of the way I push it. And it's cool. You see a lot of these guys doing it, man. Like, even some of the guys in Florida, some of the things they're doing with those outdoor pits for skinks and taliqua.
Oh yeah.
It's so cool to see. It's like a breath of fresh air, and we are going in the right direction. And again, I don't want to discourage anybody from watching this. We all start somewhere, and it's up to you to see. I'm sure you guys know too. We all started somewhere, and you guys saw certain things, their wants and needs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely kind of like the natural progression, especially when, like, you know, I mean, like we talk about it all the time on the podcast, like certain species do better in certain situations and certain setups, and
true.
also depending on where you live in the world, you know, like if you're somebody that battles with humidity issues, you know, rack systems and smaller units might be more beneficial to keep your husbandry parameters correct and all these things. So like there's so many different variables that go into play with executing your husbandry and how you maintain your animals. But I agree, when you start paying attention to what it is you're keeping and you start listening to the animals, you know, like they're gonna tell you what they're looking for and what they need, and you're gonna see those responses
Yep.
out of them, you know, that
Yep.
that give you that mental check of like, yeah, this is what it's supposed to be, like that's what
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
animal's supposed to do.
And for instance, like, you know, like we'll even go this way, like, you know, Leachianus, you know, I think even more Leachianus, you know, babies, like, you know, if you know, we in a sense do have to go smaller, and it's a security thing. It's more of a flight
Mhm.
kind of situation. So like, you know, I have animals that, like, I have them in a 6-quart tub when they hatch, but sometimes they just don't do good and don't do great in that 6-quart. And you could tell they start to get skinny, and they become more flighty, even to a point when you grab them. So what I do, which I've learned from others, is if an animal's not really eating and they haven't really gotten to their food, is really because they're in flight mode. They're in I'm surviving from this
Survival, yeah.
predator. I'm
Yep.
surviving from this predator. I don't give a shit about food or anything like that. I'm not
Yeah, I
I'm
gotta
not
be
feeling
on
secure.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, so what you do is I kind of dunk their face, just lightly dunk their face in their food, and
Yeah.
they start to lick their
And they
chops.
lick
I
it
shut
off.
it.
Yep.
I shut it, and then what happens is if I don't start to see lick marks, what I do is I say, well, it's not working. And actually, you could tell it's always the ones that are, when you grab them, they're very like flighty and wiggly. They're just not. They're in an insecure stage, in a sense that you know what I
Yep.
do is I put them in a smaller enclosure. I put them in a little sandwich tub. Boom! What do you
Yep.
know? Like literally the next day they're eating food, and it's as simple as that. So like again, we can't always say it's like, you know, they need bigger and better. Like no, sometimes they need smaller, and that's kind of the route that, you know, it's not all like you could think it is, you know. So I don't want to say the wrong things, you know. So
Yeah. No, but it's true, man. It's definitely one of those things. I feel like we certainly see it with gecko species and uh even like colubrids and stuff. Things that hatch very small.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, like even sometimes the 6-quart tub is too big. You know,
Yeah.
you get those animals that are just in flight mode because they have just been freaked the hell out. That's
Yep.
exactly right. Like they would rather be on point and ready to run than put themselves in a vulnerable situation and then, you know, potentially get eaten, even though we're not going to eat them. They don't know that. We're just
Yep.
some giant monster that peeks in on them every once in a while. So yeah, I forgot who it was. I think it's JPM Morelia or Reptilia that makes a rack
JPM
that's with those sandwich tubs.
yeah.
And
I got PM Herps, I think is the one I got.
okay, yeah,
Paul
Paul Mitchell. Yeah, Paul's the other
You
guy.
know,
Yeah.
from White Plains,
Yeah,
man.
Paul's from White Plains. Yeah, yep, exactly. I remember because every time I'd be like, "Oh yeah, Paul Mitchell's got that." They're like, "The shampoo guy, isn't that the hair guy?" Like, yeah, he does
That's
reptiles
it.
too. Yeah,
I'm getting my shampoo as a prop now. Let's
yeah,
bring it
yeah,
in. Screw the
exactly,
olive oil.
exactly. But yeah, and I'm like, I want to get at some point. I want to get one of those racks because I think for the smaller stuff, you need to have that space where you can be like, okay, well, this baby would normally do fine if it just felt more secure. So I want to have something to the side where it's like, okay, you feel more secure. Once you're good, you know, I'll give you a more appropriate enclosure, but like I need to make sure that you're good. We want you to be fine. And it's interesting, you know, reptiles being as primal but also advanced as they are in a way, like they'll literally sacrifice everything to make sure that they're safe, which is wild.
Yeah, it is different. It is.
It
Yeah,
is
100%.
freaking wild, man. You know, it's like you weigh less than a gram. You need to eat.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you're
it's-
going to die. And they're like,
Yep.
no,
Yeah,
I got to run
no.
away. I got to be ready to run.
It's so true. And it really, I've noticed over the last few years, it's always the ones when you go to grab them, they're like wiggling out and freaking out, the ones that eat, you go and grab them. They're like really like in a sense calm. It's weird. It's so weird. Man.
It's like, what's up, dude?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, man. It's definitely interesting to see for sure. So lychee wise, like what's your favorite locality on the lychee stuff?
Ooh, I really like in the small island forums. I really love the Nuami and Bros.
Okay.
And then
Yep.
as far as Grand Terror, I love my two favorites are the Poindemier and the Mount Kogus, the Troger Melanistic.
Ooh, heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, those are my absolute favorite. For sure. And then you got your like designer stuff. I have a line that I've been working with. It's like my goal was always to have like a real dark base and like a real vibrant red, and that's something that I've been working on designer wise. So yeah, I love the Bros. I think they're really underrated. I think they can come in some crazy colors and speckles, and it's a really really nice locality in my opinion.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's like I've encountered like one of the Kogus, and it was the meanest gecko. It was like it'll give a tokay a run for its money. The thing was brutal.
Yeah, they're in a sense they're also like very cage aggressive. Especially if that cage is eye level with you, they think they're big and bad, and like. But then once you take them out, like 9 times out of 10, they're a bunch of puppy dogs and they aren't gonna do shit. Whereas a tokay gecko, you take them out, no, they're gonna bite your ass.
Yeah.
Sometimes, some of them.
Yeah.
I've seen some videos that Kevin will be grabbing them and he'll be just ripping them up.
Sometimes.
Well, some are nice though.
Some are nice. Yeah. I remember seeing an old video of Kevin from Daytona, like probably like 2011 Daytona or something. And Jeff Barringer from Kingsnake, I think, was doing the interview, and he's like, "So you have tame tokay geckos, huh?" And Kevin just like, "Yep, I certainly do," and just like throws this tokay gecko in his hand, and it doesn't care, and I'm just like, "Yeah, that's pretty cool, but you couldn't do that with any of the tokays you have now, bro."
I miss. He used to have this really big leucistic one in room 5. That's name was Lucifer, and he used to hang out behind the enclosures in there. But if he called it out with like a frozen thawed pinky or with like a roach or something, it would come right out, and he'd feed it, and then you could just like pick it up right off the wall. The thing it was huge. It was massive.
And it's like, what's crazy is like how popular they are, but how much more popular they would be if they were like all tame. Because like they are still popular. Like people still love tokay geckos, but imagine if they were like all very much tame, how much more like even like they would be like people, everyone would have them.
I would have 20 of them. I'll say that.
Yeah, because they're so cool, and the family structure or like the family orientation of them too. Like they would be a really interesting pet gecko to have for sure.
They come in different colors and paint jobs, and I think it's awesome. It goes back to what we were talking about. That you there's animals you want that touch like all markets. They're all variety, and people have a preference. They can grab this color or that look, and tokay is definitely one of them on that list. There's some cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But for the most part, people are just like, no, I don't want to bleed. I just don't want to bleed. And I understand as a victim of a tokay bite, of multiple tokay bites in my life. Pass.
Rob's like, yep.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not all it's cracked up to be.
I have had my fair share of tokay bites, and I would tell all the new employees at Nerd, I will take a bite from a snake that is up to 6 feet long before I will take a bite from an adult healthy tokay.
And the thing is, I heard because like I have friends that have both that say like tokays are worse than Leachianus, and the reason why is like, and I mean I experienced this where Leachianus they do the like and then that's it. But the tokays they'll just fucking still hang on.
Yeah.
Like don't do that. They do like a bluff. It's hilarious. They'll just it's the sound then the bite. It's like, "Rah!" And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't really bite you. Some of them do bite you, but I hear like Tokei's like, no, they don't really, they don't let go, and they'll shred you.
Yeah,
Cheese,
there's
like
a
a cheese
video.
grater.
There's a video. I don't remember if I put it on my TikTok or if it went on the nerd TikTok, where Kevin's moving some tokay geckos into other cages, and he's got this bigger, like T positive albino. Yeah, and it's like freaked out. It's a wild caught one, so it's just like losing its mind. But the thing is literally like hitting him a couple times, and then it like grabs him and shakes. And then just keeps grabbing him and everything. And I mean, like, it's ripping Kevin's hand open. Yeah.
That's the worst.
Oh, dude. I was just
grab and then
yeah,
done.
exactly.
Done.
But like when you watch a tokay gecko bite and hold on so hard that like its eyes sink back into its head, you're just like,
not gonna let go.
Yeah, you're just like, dude, this is so unnecessary. Like, this is so unnecessary, bro. You have made your point.
It's the Karens of geckos.
Exactly. Let me speak to the manager. Yeah, exactly.
I'm flashbacks to Nam right now, dude. That's some really bad tokay bites.
Oh man, dude, it's so it never ceases to amaze me, man. Like those things just yeah, when they are in get the hell away from me mode, they just go for broke. And it's like, dude, you're gonna snap your jaw with the amount of pressure that you're using. It's wild.
Show you, because like you guys know that like a lot of reptiles demeanors are evolutionary, like whereas like there's certain island forms of stuff that like there's really no predators. It goes to show you where they come from. Everything is out to get them.
Everything's trying to kill you. Yeah,
everything. So like, you know, this big Homo sapien is messing around with me. He's out. You know.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, so many of those species are just like, oh yeah, you are pretty low on the food chain here. Like, I get it. I do get it.
Even say with like basins compared to northerns, right? Aren't northerns a little more snippy, and then the basins are kind of like a little more mellow?
Yeah, they're like whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a part of that too, where there's something out to get them, and it's evolutionary early there. So it's that stuff all interests me. So
yeah,
but they still
absolutely.
They've been around, and it seems like they have not been domesticated properly.
Yeah. I also feel like it's so much of it is, especially with arboreal stuff, like they're so sight driven. Because if you think about it, like, in those rare occasions where they are lower to the ground, they have those predators to worry about. But then when you're up in the trees, you've got more predators to worry about, depending on where you're at. If you're not in a super dense part of the canopy, you could be fairly exposed to a bird or some other arboreal creature. So I can only imagine that. But
you guys seen that video of like, I think it was a snake killing a tokay, and then the other tokay was trying to
flying snake.
Yeah. The freaking Chrysopelli is like, game on, bro.
It's literally it's like a perfect example of like, what they go through, that they take it out on our fingers,
Absolutely.
Yep.
Freaking wild. Also, kudos to that flying snake for going after a tokay like that. Just saying, that's a ballsy move, buddy.
It made a mistake, man.
It did, but that's a ballsy move, man. Like, you'd think like they would know.
Yeah, one would think, right?
Like tree snake training school. Like, if you see this animal, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's freaking funny.
You look so cozy right now, Rob. I'm like, I want to whip out a blanket just to join you.
Dude, that's his olive oil. That's the olive green right there, dude.
This is a heated blanket that I got for Christmas, and so I'm just like, yes, I'm just gonna get toasty right now.
Yeah, because Rob is probably cold at the moment.
I'm always cold. Always.
Freezing. be like negative degrees up here.
Yeah.
Ooh. It
Oof.
was 20 degrees when I woke up this morning, so it was cold down here. Not that cold, but it was cold.
That is cold. That is very cold.
It's too cold. It's just too cold. All it's too cold. I'm ready for spring. I'm already
Yeah.
ready for spring. Yeah.
It's always like after Christmas. Like I feel like if after Christmas we went straight into spring, it would be just lovely because it
Yeah.
just kind of lingers a little too long.
Yeah, especially up
Yeah.
there, dude. It's like you've got spring, summer, a little bit of fall, and then but spring seems to be getting shorter. So it's like the rest of the year is winter, aka road construction, and it's just absolutely terrible.
It's just awful. Oh my god, I hate it.
Ah, man,
So strange.
freaking ridiculous.
I wonder if that is affecting the breeding seasons for things, because I feel like I have stuff cycling weird this year compared to how it typically does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it plays a role, because whatever happens out on the outside, it happens even more on the inside because it's just there's not really a big total fluctuation. So like even just a couple degrees can play a big role,
Yeah.
from what I've seen, and I'm sure other breeders see, So
Yeah, I think over the last few years, like I've spoken to breeders of numerous species that have all been like, yeah, like stuff's like just going later. Like it's bizarre. So
yeah, and I think that's what you have to do, I always say like, I what's his name? Bob Ross. Was it happy mistakes? Like,
yeah, oh yeah.
it's one of those like it's okay. Don't stress too hard on it. If it delays a little bit, just it's a happy mistake, just keep
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Basically.
Pretty much. Hey man, as long as the animals are cool and they're doing what they got to do, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yes.
I'm
At least for me.
I'm excited for 2025. It's going to be fun. Yeah, for all of us, I'm sure. We always have projects that we're interested in and seeing what happens next. So,
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
Hopefully the economy gets a little better too, and everything changes in that direction too.
Yeah. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to sell some things.
I think too, it's like one of those things we all have to like. I think once we start talking positive too, because a lot of it, I'm not gonna, I can't do nothing, or and a lot of holdback in a sense, like I don't want to buy, or I think if we talk positive about everything, it's good too, Even just the podcast tonight talking about skinks, it might get somebody that wants to start something like that, or so.
Absolutely, and I think when we look at the grand scheme of things, industry wise, like we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast in the past, and like I certainly have gone rants on my Instagram about it, like just talking about like industry viewpoint, and ball pythons drive so much of what this industry does, and of course that industry is feeling a lot of pain right now, like as sales have slowed down, prices are kind of going through their turmoil, but the entire industry isn't necessarily suffering.
Yeah.
Like there are still folks that are able to sell things without any issues. So it's refreshing to be in a space where it's like, oh yeah, no, like actually things are going quite well. Like, and like if you just focus and look at this, like it's actually working.
Whereas like COVID,
right.
it was perfect, but like,
yeah,
in a sense, things are still selling, and maybe sometimes you have to accept the fact that maybe lowering the price a little bit, it could help, but I think the big thing is too is like a lot of the breeders, like a lot of the breeders are kind of holding back because they have to survive too. So like there's new
right.
projects or stuff like that are being a little bit more on the back burner. But you guys know it'll be okay. I believe it'll be good. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. But heck yeah, man. We definitely passed our hour mark, but that's totally cool because it's been such a fun podcast. But we can wrap things up, and we usually will wrap things up with one final question for our guests. So John, that question is, what in the realm of reptiles, be it something you've got going on at your place or something you may have seen online, what in the realm of reptiles has you excited about reptiles right now?
Ooh. Something that I would want, or just like
It
seeing.
could be something you want, or something that you saw
Something-
that you're just like, man, that's so cool, or anything
or
like
something
that.
that you're doing.
Or something that you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say this. I haven't really told anybody that I work with them, but my goal. I have produced them, but I've had breeders' luck, bad luck. So the
Okay.
Agurnia king eye,
Ooh.
the speckled forms.
Mm.
I have produced them, but I had some bad luck. One of them, which I don't know how it happened, the first year I bred them, I walked in and it was awful, man. I was going into work. I worked at UPS at the time. And I saw her, having infertile ovums, and it was, you guys know, once you see one after the other, it's like usually
Yeah, you kind of
they're
know.
all. So I
Yeah.
was like, all right, I'm late for work. Let me go. And I fucking come back, and what do you know? There's a dead baby Agurnia king eye in the water bowl. And I knew it was alive because it had the first shed. It came out. But the thing is,
that's a
I don't
bummer.
know how that would have happened because the bowl wasn't crazy deep, and like Agurnias are like really like you
They're
guys
sturdy.
know Agurnias are smart, man. They're very
Yeah.
smart. So like, I just don't know. And then this year, which that's why sometimes I'm not a fan of the cages, or like too smallish of cages, like the 4-footers. I had Agurnia king eyes producing. It was 3 babies, and they were all premature. And I really do believe it was because I kept the cage too warm. And I think she either got into distress and dropped them early. Which I haven't really said that. I'm weird. I'm the type of guy that like I have things, but I'll never use them as like a Pokemon card. I like to produce them first and show that I put in the right work, and then I show the public. Usually, if you ever guys notice, a lot of stuff is like all the babies I produce. I'm just like weird with that. Like I don't want to show something that I never produced and then kind of use it as like a Pokemon card. But this one, it's like I guess I'm telling you guys is like not everything's perfect, and that's probably one thing that I'm looking absolutely forward to, because Agurnia king eyes are so cool, man. They're the closest thing to me to Varanus. If not, I think that they're even more of like, because they're a social group, so there's a pecking order. So like if you have a group of them, there's like a pecking order there, and they are extremely smart. So if there was something I'm looking forward to, I really would love to see a nice healthy litter of them, and actually it would be, if I'm not mistaken, that will like the speckles would be the first in the States to be born, if I'm not mistaken. I guess technically I did produce them, but I don't consider it as that in a sense.
Yeah.
So I would love to produce
fair. Yeah.
a nice healthy litter. And then I guess another thing would be outward. I would love to get into, because ever since I was a little kid I've always wanted them, but I want them like as just like more of like maybe a little small group. But I always loved the basins. When I was a kid, this was like when I was like 7 or 8, I was the knucklehead that thought I would get like a basin. You guys, when you zoo exhibits, the coming soon picture. I had an aquarium, and I printed out an emerald tree boa basin, and I printed it on my aquarium, and it said coming soon. I never got that animal because at the time I know I probably would never be able to get the animal. That's
I love that
ago.
though. Yeah.
So like I could get one if I want to now, but like I think that I'm just trying to gather some funds and then finish out some projects here. But that would probably be one on the outward side that I don't have that I would love to, because I love them, man. And it's not just because they're like popular and they're like like you're the cool kid on the block if you have it. It's really
they're just cool snakes.
Genuine. Like I always wanted them since I was little, so that would probably be something, But we'll see. I'm not there yet. So.
Get them. They're so freaking cool.
I know Kevin. I'm sure you guys know Kevin had a bunch of them too, right?
He still does. He still does. Yeah.
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 I would love a little group of those guys.
Hell yeah, dude.
I'll say they're phenomenal. They're really cool snakes. The hype is real for them. Like some things are overrated. I think basins are rated perfectly. They're
Yeah.
really incredible. They're really cool snakes, and they're worth every bit of hype that they get.
So that means I should
Yeah.
get some. That's it. I'm convinced I should get.
Yeah, it's
Thanks,
definitely
Rob.
worth it.
Sold.
It's definitely worth it. I will say. Yeah. Yeah.
I always love basins too, and that's one of the things where like I don't have any desire to get green tree pythons, but basins are still like top of the top notch. Like I will have a basin someday.
No, it's
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those like as you know a herper like you gotta have yourself a basin. That's like everyone, and I believe that's gonna be with shinglebacks. Like everyone's gonna want to would love to have a shingleback.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
they are great. They're so easy to take care of. They're just cool looking. They're puppy dogs. Their demeanor is so calm. You know, I really strongly believe, and I don't know if Australians will beat me up for this one, but because they don't have any true land tortoise. I believe
Yep.
that
Mm.
shinglebacks are the non-evolutionary, land tortoise of Australia. Like they don't have the shell, but they are everything.
The tortoise without the shell.
Because
I love that.
They eat the mixed greens. They're very like blah, like slow. They live really long. They're just such a nice animal, man. And I just think that in a sense, like it's almost like they just are missing the shell.
Okay, we got to Photoshop a shell onto a shingleback. That's what's got to happen.
Yeah.
AI it. You gotta
AI it. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So what we're saying is a shingleback is a hermit crab that just hasn't found its shell yet.
It's the olive oil, but it needs to get to the extra virgin olive oil.
There
you go.
There you go.
That's great.
Oh man, I love it, dude. I love it. Well, if people wanna see the stuff that you're working with, where can they check you out?
Yeah, so I have the Instagram, which is Johnny JOHNNY _ Rhacs RHACS. That's usually where I'm at. Like a lot of the Facebook Messenger, I should do better at, but it's more or less like my personal, so I kind of more Instagram. So I'm there, but yeah.
Hell yeah, man!
Rob,
Thank you so much for coming on.
you have a
I
question?
appreciate it. No, that's our collective question that we like to ask everybody. Yeah, I'm always curious to see what it is because sometimes it comes out of left field and somebody's like, "Oh, I saw something crazy online," and it's like, or some people talk about like the things that they have got going on in their own collection, or sometimes it's like something that you want to get into in the future. So I'm always curious to see what has people excited about reptiles right now because it's always something different and it's never something that I would have like expected to like. I would never have expected you to say I want to get an Amazon basin like it's just it's interesting, right? But it's a little window into what keeps the fire alive for people.
Awesome. I love it, Rob. And I appreciate you guys. I really do, you know?
Hell
yeah.
I know I met Rob I was with Darnell Empire. Yeah, that's how we met. And then Jeremy, I met you at White Plains. I know it was a long time ago. But that was a good time. Yeah. So it all comes together, the community, you know?
Hell yeah.
Hell
man.
yeah.
Absolutely. Dude, thank you so much for coming to hang with us, man.
Yes.
Like, this was a blast.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It means a lot. All right.
Hell yeah, dude.
Sir.
Go put that extra virgin back in the cupboard, buddy.
Oh man. All right, you guys are the best.
All right, see you, man.